everyone, my name is Desala. I'm a fashion designer and you are welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Daisy's Wardrobe. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're an existing subscriber, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you've seen my videos before and you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. And put on the notification bell so that you know when I put up a new video. I'm an African-inspired ready-to-wear fashion designer based here in Lagos, Nigeria, and I've been in business for over 10 years. So here on my channel, I talk about running a fashion business, being a fashion designer, starting a ready-to-wear business, all things business, all things fashion, and sometimes, once in a while, I talk about my life. So here in today's video, I'll be talking about the basic equipment that you need to start a fashion design business. So like I said, I'm an African-inspired ready-to-wear fashion designer. I make my designs and I sell my designs right here in my store, and that's what I've done for the last over 10 years, or I can't remember. But yeah, that's what I've done for a very, very long time. And when I first started my business, I didn't really know a lot of stuff. I didn't really know anyone who was in the business. I didn't really know anything really. I went to fashion school, but when I started the business, I kind of like struggled, when it came to buying the basic equipment that I needed. So I would buy some stuff today, and then, along the line, I'd remember that, oh, I need this. And then I would run back and go and get this. And then, going back and forth, trying to put your things together to start your fashion business. Sometimes it's not very convenient when you're going back and forth, especially when you're thinking about your finances. Because when you're starting a business involves, spending money. Depending on the amount of money that you have available to spend on the business, you really want to maximize the amount of resources that you have when you're starting a business. So you want to know, this is what I need. These are the basic things that I need in terms of equipment to start my fashion business. The other things that are required when you're starting a fashion business, the basic equipment that are required to start is what I'll be talking about in this video today. So you may be looking to start a fashion design business whereby you will be sewing some garments, either male or female, and you want to start up, this business, and you're just looking that, okay, what are the basic equipments I need? I want to start now, I want to start tomorrow, I want to start next month, I want to start next year. Whatever it is, you really want to have a general idea of what it is that you need. So when it comes to fashion design business, one of the basic equipments that you need, which is literally the basic of the basic of the basic equipment that you need to start a fashion design business, is a sewing machine. So you need a sewing machine to start a fashion design business. A sewing machine is what you would use to produce the garment. It's what you use to sew your garment to make it what it is, whatever it is that you want it to be. So the type of sewing machine that you want to buy, or the type of sewing machine that you want to get, it now depends on you. It depends on the kind of, or it depends on how you intend to start, the scale of fashion design business that you want to start. So you may be a learner, you may be a beginner, or you may even be an experienced person and you want to buy this machines. So there are two types of machines. You have the basic domestic machine. So there's one that they call the manual one, and then the one that they call the electric one. So they're normal basic domestic sewing machines. So they can do the basic stuff for you. They can actually make a whole garment for you. And there's literally nothing wrong with that. So if you're looking to start your fashion business on a small scale, you can start with that. And as your business starts to grow, you can scale up and move on to something else. So the other type of sewing machine are the industrial sewing machines. So those types require electricity. Those are not manual in any way. the way they sew and the way the manual ones or the domestic ones sew, they're literally almost the same. There's really not that much of a difference. So you may want to opt in for a domestic sewing machine or an industrial sewing machine. So now, if you're buying an industrial sewing machine, you may start with one. As the business progresses, you may move on to buying more industrial sewing machines. And if you're starting and you say to yourself, I don't want a domestic machine at all, I just want an industrial machine, you can go ahead and start with that. But do remember that in as much as the way they sew is the same, they're both straight sewing, they are not handled in the same way. You don't, for example, you don't thread it the same way, you don't maintain it the same way, and you don't do just certain things in the same way. So be on the lookout for that when you're trying to buy a sewing machine. Then the next basic equipment that you need to start a fashion business is a cutting table. That is very, very, very important. That is very, very important because you need to cut your fabric, you need to cut your patterns, you need to cut different things to use when sewing. So a cutting table is very, very important. And are you enjoying my video? Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe and put on the notification bell so that you know when I put up a new video. The type of cutting table that you would get, it now depends on you. On this side of the world, you can't go into a place and say you want to buy a cutting table. You have to have one made for you. So the type of cutting table that you have made that will be made for you depends on you. And it depends on certain things. It depends on the space you're using, how big the space is, how small the space is. And it also depends on your height. So, for example, I am a tall person. I am 5'9". So I prefer my cutting tables to be a bit high off the ground. I can't remember the dimensions of my cutting table because I've had them for quite a while. But I can check and put it somewhere in the description and you can have a look at it. But yes, you need a cutting table. You don't want a cutting table to be too high or too low because you have to consider your back. If you're the one that's going to be cutting, or whoever it is that's going to be cutting, you have to also consider the health factors that comes along with having the correct cutting table. You need to consider your back. If you're cutting involves and takes a lot of time. So if you're going to be standing for a long time, cutting fabric, cutting patterns, your cutting table needs to be at a height that is very, very comfortable so that you don't hurt your back. Another equipment is an ironing table. So an ironing table is very important. Some people utilize their cutting tables as their ironing table, and some people buy an ironing table completely altogether to do that on its own. So whichever is convenient for you, you go ahead and do. If you have the funds to go ahead and buy a cutting table, an ironing table, please by all means. And if you don't have enough funds, or you feel like you can use your cutting table as an ironing table, that's also fine as well. The next basic equipment that is required for starting a fashion design business is scissors. Scissors, scissors, scissors. This is like, for me, scissors is very important. It is so important, more important than almost any other thing, because when you're cutting and you don't have the right kind of scissors, for me, it's a problem because I have to consider my knuckles, and it just doesn't make the process very pleasant when you don't have the right kind of scissors. So investing in a good pair of scissors for cutting is very, very important. Please try and get a pair of scissors that is comfortable, that you can move properly with your wrist, because at the end of the day, all these things that I'm mentioning is not just for if you are the one cutting and sewing these clothes. You also have to consider the people that are working for you, because that's if you have people that are going to be sewing for you, you have to consider that as well, because you have to consider their health. Their health is very, very important. So you have to put into consideration a good pair of scissors. So the next basic equipment to start fashion design business is chalk. Chalk is very important. Either you have a chalk or you have a pencil. So when you're buying your chalk, there are different types of chalk. There are some that are for cutting, for garment production, and then there are some that are for writing. Some people prefer to use the one for writing on the blackboard to draft their patterns, while people like me prefer to use the ones that are meant for sewing to use to draft patterns. The ones that are used to draft patterns are usually slim, they are very flat, they have very thin edges around them, which makes, the drawing of the lines very precise, compared to the ones that have very, very thick edges. And when you use them to draw your lines, the lines come out very thick. I prefer the thin lines. It makes, measurements a lot more accurate. Then the next basic equipment is a measuring tape. So a measuring tape is very important. You need your measuring tape to measure the dimensions of your whatever it is you're drafting, whatever it is you're sewing. It is very important. And the measuring tape has two sides. One side is in inches, the other side is in centimeters, and they come in different lengths. Some come in 62 or 63 inches, and the others come in 120 inches. Whichever one is convenient for you, you can go ahead and buy. But having a very, very good measuring tape is very important. Make sure measuring tape is good and accurate. Some of the measuring tapes they sell these days, they are very, very flimsy. So I always advise that when you buy a brand new measuring tape, you take out the metal tip, because those metal tip tends to cut the tape at the beginning of the tape, and then it makes your measuring very inaccurate. So I always like to take it off completely before I start using. Then the next basic equipment that is required is sewing thread. Thread is very important. Thread is what you will use to put your garment together with the sewing machine. Threads come in different colors. They come in different sizes as well. So you have the big sizes, you have the tiny sizes. So it all depends on you, whichever one you want, and also depends on the kind of sewing machine that you are using. So you have to consider all these things. There are different kinds of threads that are sold in the market. So whichever one is perfect for your sewing machine is what you should please go ahead and buy. Also, another thing that is required to start a fashion design business is machine needles. You can't have enough machine needles. Machine needles tend to break, especially when you're sewing some kind of garments or some kind of fabrics that have all these, sequins, embellishments, and all sorts. You tend to find out that the machine needles sometimes break, and you see yourself, or you find yourself changing them as often as possible. I can't overemphasize the importance of having enough, or more than enough, machine needles. So that's it for my video for today. If you enjoyed watching my video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe and put on the notification bell so that you know when I put up a new video. And so I will see you soon.